While Europe starved and cities burned, Nazi officers dined on stolen champagne, wore tailored Hugo Boss uniforms, and drove gleaming Mercedes-Benz cars built by slave labor. It wasn't chaos, it was business. The Third Reich didn't just conquer nations, it commodified them. And behind every symbol of power, the black boots, the silver insignia, the immaculate uniforms, there was profit. The Nazis turned aesthetics into ideology, fashion into propaganda, and luxury into proof of divine order. It's one of the darkest paradoxes in economic history, how an empire built on purity and sacrifice indulged in obscene materialism. But it worked. The image of control, the spectacle of beauty and discipline, became one of the regime's most powerful financial assets. This wasn't just a dictatorship. It was a brand. To understand how deep that branding went, you have to go back to Germany in the early 1930s, a country broken, humiliated, and bankrupt. After the First World War, the Treaty of Versailles crushed the German economy. Hyperinflation wiped out savings. By 1923, a loaf of bread cost billions of marks. Middle-class families burned banknotes for warmth because firewood was cheaper. Then came the Great Depression. Unemployment soared, despair spread, and faith in democracy evaporated. That was the world Adolf Hitler walked into, not as a soldier, but as a salesman. He sold redemption. His product was power, wrapped in moral purity and national pride. But no one buys purity if it looks poor. So while Hitler preached discipline and sacrifice to the masses, his inner circle built an empire of spectacle. A parallel economy where beauty, luxury, and violence fed each other. The Weimar Republic had been chaotic, modern, and cosmopolitan. Berlin's cabarets, jazz, and avant-garde art symbolized freedom, but also decadence in Nazi eyes. Hitler promised to cleanse it all. He called modern art degenerate, yet obsessed over architecture, design, and uniform precision. He didn't just want to rule Germany, he wanted to choreograph it, and for that, he needed style. In 1933, the Nazi Party came to power and immediately fused politics with image management. Joseph Goebbels, head of the Ministry of Propaganda, understood that control of the mind started with control of the eye. Everything became aestheticized. Rallies, parades, posters, films, even currency design. But the most powerful propaganda wasn't on paper, it was worn. Enter Hugo Boss, a small-town tailor from Metzingen who joined the Nazi Party early. His factory produced brown shirts for the SA, black uniforms for the SS, and field attire for the Wehrmacht. His sleek designs made soldiers look like a modern Roman legion, cold, unified, terrifyingly elegant. The style wasn't accidental, it was engineered to turn men into symbols. Those black uniforms weren't fashion, they were psychology stitched into fabric. Hitler's elite didn't just wear their ideology, they drove it. The Mercedes-Benz 770K car, known as the Hitler limousine, became a global icon of technological dominance. It was massive, bulletproof, and customized to project invincibility. It wasn't transportation, it was theater on wheels. Even the idea of the Volkswagen, the people's car, designed by Ferdinand Porsche, served propaganda. It was marketed as proof that the regime could deliver modern luxury to the working man. Of course, very few Germans ever received one. The funds were diverted to war production. The promise was a lie, but the dream was profitable. While these companies mass-produced loyalty, others refined it. The chemical conglomerate IG Farben manufactured synthetic rubber, fuel, and textiles, the literal fabric of Nazi modernity. They also produced Zyklon B, the gas used in extermination camps. That's the seamless cruelty of the Nazi economy. The same supply chain that made tires for tanks made poison for people. Meanwhile, in occupied Paris, another kind of collaboration was unfolding, one wrapped in silk and perfume. As German officers marched through the streets, the city's haute couture houses reopened their doors. Paris had fallen, but the fashion industry adapted. The wives and mistresses of Nazi officials became the new clientele. The ateliers of Dior, Balenciaga, and Nina Ricci quietly flourished under occupation. Coco Chanel moved into the Ritz, a hotel requisitioned by the Germans, and began an affair with a Nazi intelligence officer, Hans Günther von Dinklage. For Chanel, the war was a business opportunity. She used anti-Jewish laws to try to seize control of her perfume company from her Jewish business partners, the Wertheimer brothers. It didn't work. They had already moved their operations out of reach, but the attempt exposed a pattern. Moral lines blurred easily when survival and profit aligned. And that's the key to the Nazi luxury paradox. It wasn't hypocrisy, it was hierarchy. The regime preached simplicity to the masses, but rewarded loyalty with privilege. The higher you rose, the more ornate your life became. Hitler's bunker might have been Spartan, but his mountain retreat, the Berghof, was a temple of indulgence. Red marble fireplaces, panoramic windows imported from France, and furniture looted from Jewish estates. Hermann Göring built his estate, Karenhall, with stolen art, gold, and antiques, a Versailles for a warlord. At the same time, the Ministry of Propaganda spun poverty as patriotism. Ordinary Germans were told to ration, recycle, and sacrifice for the fatherland, while the Nazi elite ate imported delicacies and smoked French cigars confiscated from deported families. Even luxury was nationalized. In occupied territories, German agents seized jewelry, art, and furs by the ton. These items were cataloged, stored, or redistributed among high-ranking officials. The so-called Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg, a special task force, looted over 600,000 works of art across Europe, from Rembrandts to Renoirs. It wasn't just theft, it was economic colonization. Luxury became a weapon of empire. For the Nazis, beauty wasn't decoration, it was domination. The immaculate uniform, the symmetrical architecture, the staged rallies, all of it built a visual language of inevitability, a perfect world built on perfectly ordered suffering. That's how you sell a lie at scale. You make it look expensive. The Nazi regime understood something that modern marketing still runs on. Aesthetics create authority. They made fascism look fashionable, and the world bought it. The Third Reich didn't just build weapons, it built an aesthetic economy. Everything had a look, a sound, and a symbol. Hitler understood that power needed spectacle, and spectacle needed producers, so the regime outsourced its propaganda to the country's best artists, engineers, and industrialists. Leni Riefenstahl's films, like Triumph of the Will, turned rallies into religious rituals. Albert Speer's architecture, the stone cathedrals of fascism, turned politics into performance art. Even the Autobahn, that marvel of modern infrastructure, doubled as a stage for national glory. Cars didn't just move, they paraded. Every kilometer of concrete was a statement. Germany is back, and it's perfect. Behind that perfection was profit. The Nazi economy was a web of state contracts and private enrichment. Industrial giants like Krupp, Siemens, and Volkswagen didn't just survive the regime, they thrived on it. Forced labor camps supplied millions of unpaid workers, most of them prisoners, who were treated as disposable machinery. Mercedes-Benz built luxury cars for the elite and trucks for the army, both powered by slave labor from concentration camps. Hugo Boss's uniforms came from factories staffed with forced laborers, most of them women taken from occupied countries. IG Farben's profits surged during the war, not despite the Holocaust, but because of it. They ran factories next to death camps to extract maximum efficiency from human suffering. It was the industrialization of exploitation, capitalism without conscience. But the most profitable sector of Nazi luxury was theft. The regime didn't just pillage art and gold, it monetized identity itself. Through Aryanization, Jewish businesses were confiscated and handed to loyal Nazis or restructured under German ownership. Banks froze Jewish accounts, insurers refused payouts, and the Ministry of Economics reallocated assets under new names. In occupied Paris, the process was systematic. Jewish families were forced to declare their possessions, every painting, diamond, and fur coat. Then officials cataloged, priced, and seized them.
Warehouses in the 7th arrondissement overflowed with fine furniture, jewelry, and antiques. Trains shipped stolen luxury back to Germany, where it decorated the homes of Nazi officers. Paris became a shopping mall for the Third Reich. Meanwhile, French high society adapted. The wives of German officers shopped at Chanel and Schiaparelli. Cafes reopened. Tailors adjusted their prices. The machine of elegance never stopped running. It just changed clients. Coco Chanel's story wasn't unique, it was symbolic. She moved into a suite at the Ritz, the same building where Göring's staff operated, and resumed her socialite lifestyle as if Paris hadn't fallen. She collaborated with Nazi officials, courted wealth, and maneuvered to reclaim her control of her perfume company from her Jewish business partners, using new racial laws. When that failed, she stayed comfortable anyway. After the war, she reinvented herself as a survivor, because in fashion, image is everything. That's the deeper lesson. The Nazi